Matthew chapter 13, you guys. So I know what you're saying. I know what you're thinking. You know, we talked about the resurrection of Jesus, and just a minute. There we go. The resurrection of Jesus and how important it is for the whole world to know this good news about Jesus. So important that we share it with people in our world. And we talked about that last week, about how significant you are in your world and all of that. And you're going to say, Tom, I've been trying this stuff. I've been trying to be open about my faith publicly with people that I know and love, and it just ain't happening, okay? People are telling me I'm weird, and, sometimes we do it wrong, right? I had a doctor friend of mine. He became concerned for his patients that not only he healed their bodies, but he see healing for their souls, and he knew Jesus. So it was a local judge he had doing a physical exam on. And after the exam was over, he says, listen, there's one more thing I want to talk to you about, Judge. Are you sure if you died today, you'd go to heaven? And the judge fainted. And when he woke up, he said, what's wrong, Doc? You can tell me, whatever it is. I can handle it. I've got to be able to prepare for what's coming. And he goes, no, it's not physical. I'm sorry. I should have told you. I wasn't concerned about your physical health. Yeah, you can do that the wrong way. And it can go sideways. So, you're going to put your foot in it sometimes, and you're going to make a wrong step and all that. None of that matters. If we do something dumb, we just say we're sorry and go on. You can say, Tom, I've really been thinking about this and trying, and I've been able to share my faith a couple of times. They're just not good responses, and people don't seem to be interested, and they're saying maybe I should keep that to myself, and I just don't know what to do about it. Have you been there before? It's a great way for the devil to silence God's people. But God's going to continue to open doors for you, and in order for you to be able to deal with the real world, you've got to understand what's going on in the lives of people when you talk to them. First of all, you got to get yourself out of the way. This isn't about you. It's not about you and me. It's about them. The Lord could have just taken you to heaven when you got saved. When you trusted Christ, he could have just taken you to heaven. But he left you here. You know why he left you here? Well, two reasons. First of all, he got a lot of work to do on you and me still, right? You know what I mean? Where was the pin? There was this conference everybody went to in the 70s, and when it was over, you'd get this pin that had a series of letters that stood for the statement, please be patient with me, God is not finished yet, okay? And that's true. That's one of the reasons he leaves us, but the other and the big reason that he leaves us here is for them. We're here for them. And so it's important for us to know that there's nothing wrong with the message that you have. There's nothing wrong with the fact that you are a believer, and it's right for you to share your faith, but you've got to understand people are in different places and in different conditions. And so what I want to read to you is a story that Jesus told long ago. It's recorded for us in 3 of the Gospels, and it's this farmer that goes out to sow seed. Let me just read this to you. Matthew chapter 13, verse 3. And he told them many things in parables, saying, a farmer went out to sow his seed, and as he was scattering seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil, and it sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched, and they withered because they had no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil, where it produced a crop 100, 60, or 30 times what was sown. Whoever has ears, let him hear. They ask him a series of questions on why he's telling parables. Why are you telling these truths in parables, Lord, and stories? And usually it was to illustrate something. But in this case, Jesus said it's because I don't want them to get it yet, which is really different. And he goes on to explain, he says to them, you are blessed. Blessed are your eyes, verse 16, because they see, and your ears because they hear. Formerly, I tell you, many prophets and righteous people longed to see what you see, but did not see it, and to hear what you hear and do not hear it. Listen then to the parable of the sower, what it means. When anyone hears a message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what is sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy, but since they have no root, they last only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. It is really important that you and I understand people and the condition they're in. I know we usually make this about the soil and what kind of soil you have in your own heart, but I just want to look at it this way. People have different stuff going on, and when you sow the seed of the truth of the gospel of Jesus Christ in people's lives, it has different effects. Sometimes it has no effect. Sometimes it has a very deep and very important effect in the lives of people. But let's look at these just quickly. First of all, there's the unresponsive. You can tell somebody the truth of the gospel. It's beautiful. You can tell them the reasons why you believe, and none of it will make any difference to them. You want to know why? Because the seed was sown along a path where it had been trampled down. Some people have become what we call gospel hardened. They've heard the story of Jesus so many times that it doesn't penetrate. It doesn't get inside. It doesn't, they just say to themselves, well, I've heard this before. And, I've been down this path. I've heard this, I've done that, and you got to understand something about the gospel. Closing your mind to the truth brings a pattern which makes it all the more difficult to ever hear the truth ever again. No one turns his back on the light, but that he increases the darkness in his own soul. So it's a path. You walk on a path long enough and nothing will grow there, right? Because it's hardened. It won't penetrate. Listen, there's people in that situation. They've heard it so many times. Maybe their mom or their grandma would never stop, and they just kept going and pushing and pushing and pushing. Well, something's got to happen in their lives. In fact, when God spoke to Israel, he said, till up the fallow ground, the hardened soil of your heart, he would tell them, right? God's got to bring something into somebody's life that you've talked to like that, and it seems to make no effect. Listen, God's got to do something in their life. They've heard, don't worry, you tell them one day God's going to break up that soil, and you'll be hearing from them, or you'll hear from them that they finally understood it. It finally got to the inside. My friend Morgan Seipel, the funeral director in Pontiac, I told you that he had died several years ago, and his son Greg was a dear friend of Aaron and I's in the neighborhood. Well, we were on the other side of the tracks. We were in Silver Lake Estates. They were on the other side of the tracks on Lake Angeles. And the reason we were interested in Greg is because his sister was beautiful, and if we went over and saw Greg, we'd see her too. So we'd go for fun. When his dad died, I did Morgan's funeral in downtown Pontiac. It was on Perry Street is where that was. I had like 80 or 100 funeral directors that came to his service. And you know what hit me to speak about at the funeral service? This. I said to him, you guys are in grave danger. I never get you alone like this. So I want to tell you, most of you have been gospel hardened. You've heard it so many times in so many different places, you can't even hear it anymore. And I'm here to tell you something. This is true. And you have to believe it in order to experience eternal life. You are lost just like all of us. And we got to believe. Now, listen, it didn't go over real big that day. They didn't like that I told them that. But I told them, and it's because that's what happens. They just hear it so many times, they become hardened. So you're going to do that. You're going to share it with somebody. I went to church when I was a kid. You know, they drug me to church every Sunday. I'm so sick about hearing about. Okay? You're not their mother. All right? You take your hands off that. You let God deal with them. Okay? Don't be discouraged. Second type of person is this. The person that's impulsive. This is the person that, this is verse 20, I believe. In verse 21, the seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy, but since they have no root, they last only a short time. And when trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. Listen, there's a lot of people that will say yes to Jesus right away, and you'll never hear from them again. Because what happens is they're desperate. And there's stuff under the surface that you can't see. And that stuff causes them to be desperate. And they will, oh yes, please, anything, okay? And they believe it because they're hurting. They don't believe it because it's true. Do you ever try growing grass in stony ground? Oh, we live there. I mean, we live there, and I live next door to Mr. Perfect, and I've got rocky ground. I mean, the rocks I've pulled out of this is unbelievable. Mr. Perfect's lawn looks like, whew, mine is not looking real good. Whew, we need help. But what I'll do, I'll come over a spot and it'll be real thin, and all you have to do is take a probe and it'll go bink, bink, bink. There's a rock there. So you start digging. Now listen, we pulled one rock out of our yard when we were digging for the sewer tap 39 years ago, and it's a little bigger than that piano, okay? It was, the guy said, I've got a rock here. It took forever to pull that thing out. It's in my backyard. Oh, we take family pictures on that rock now, come to think of it. Let's go to the rock, take a picture. It's a big rock. They're all under the ground at my place, and so you got to start digging. If you're going to have grass grow in that spot, that rock's got to go. And so you start digging. And usually when you start digging, it's way bigger than you thought it was, and they end up with a big hole and a big rock out of there. I've got piles of rock. Debbie said to me just recently, what are you going to do with all these rocks? When we had to take a tree down, and between two trees was the stone fence that the old farmer 100 and some years ago moved off the field, and the rocks ran through my yard. I just don't have the natural clay and rock soil of Clarkston. I've got all this stuff that farmer dumped on me 4 generations ago that I'm still dealing with. And I've got all these rocks, and Debbie said, do something with these things. Put them around something. Deal with them. Get rid of that pile. I got a big pile by my wood pile out in the back. And so I'm gonna do that. I'll be adding to it today as I dig. You're gonna come to somebody and their life seems normal. But underneath is some junk that you can't imagine. And they'll be desperate, and they'll take everything you have to read, and they'll so joyfully thank you, and then all of a sudden they will disappear. Don't be discouraged. There's stuff under the surface that God is going to deal with, okay? Let them be. Again, you are not their mother. You can't fix this. Here's another statement. There is a God, and you're not him, okay? Let him have his work in people's lives. Those are the people, those who are impulsive, my goodness. Let it be. God will deal with it. Here's another one. How about the distracted? The people that you can tell them the gospel, but there's so much distraction in their lives. The seed falling, verse 22, among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. There is an anxiety about life, a fear of our own welfare, our comfort, and our safety. And it can become overwhelming in somebody's life. And if they hear the gospel while they're overwhelmed with their worries of their own life, it will interfere. It will distract. You know what? The deceitfulness of riches, it means to be deluded. It means to believe something that isn't true. You know what that is? That money will fix it. Have you seen people hit the lotto and win $100 million and they're broke in a year and a half because everybody they knew showed up and they bought everything and they had nothing to back it up and it all fell apart? Because riches don't get it. What did Solomon say? Riches take wing and fly away. It does. And riches can't do what you think. If I just had enough money, Lord, if I just had 6 numbers for Saturday night, I know how that goes. Oh man, I was in a fundamentalist Baptist church when I first came out of seminary, and there was a kid there. Do you remember him, Dave? He won the lottery for $10,000. Baptists don't like it when you play the lottery. Okay, they're like, well, he won that lottery. That's not godly money. Well, he went and bought the coolest new Firebird. Wasn't it yellow? Remember that, Dave? He's a good guy. It was the devil car, they said. Buddy of mine, Steve, he was broke. Had a bunch of financial turns that really devastated him financially. He was speaking in Las Vegas, and they took him to a casino for breakfast. And he ate, and all the money he had in his pocket was 25 cents. This is before credit cards, okay? And so he's walking out, and he's going by those one-armed bandits. I'm just reporting the news. He thought, can't hurt. He put a quarter in and hit for $5,000. And some little old lady in his church said, that's tainted money. He said, yeah, taint enough, is what he said to him. Oh, we get off on everything, don't we? But here's the thing, is that riches delude us. We believe a lie. We think money is the answer to everything. So when people hear the gospel and they're so worried about their own lives and their own welfare and their own safety, and if they can just somehow get their hands on enough money, it's gonna delude them. You know, growing up, we were golfers in the Hampton family. We grew up on Silver Lake Golf Course over here, and it's a gentleman's game, you know? You don't say anything. Everybody stays quiet. Well, until Live Golf came along, and now they just yell all the time. Yeah. But or you go play in New York in one of the tournaments, and they're New Yorkers. They can never be quiet, okay? But it's a gentleman's game. And so, you know, when someone is on the green and they're going to putt, everybody else gets off the green, and you stand quietly and you let them take their shot, right? You know, you don't make noise. You don't move. I can remember one time playing at Orchard Lake Country Club as just a kid. And my buddy was the caddy master, and we were playing with the pro, and the pro was about to hit a drive, and I was just a few feet in front of him, and I bumped my caddy master to point where the green was, and after the shot, he grabbed a hold of me and said, "Listen, young man, you do not move when somebody else is hitting." Whoo! He told me, man. He told me like his name was Rocco. And Rocco was a good guy. Anyhow, so you learn that it's a gentleman's game. And then guess what? Aaron got me involved, my one and only time in Little League Baseball. Do you know what they do at baseball? When you're trying to stand up there and you're trying to concentrate on that ball that guy's going to throw at you, everybody out there is going, hey, batter, hey, batter, swing, batter, you know. Whew! I didn't know what to do. I mean, it messed with my mind. I was used to golf. I wasn't used to this kind of stuff. Are you kidding me? What a brutal game. They're trying to get you off your game. They're trying to get you to not watch the ball. They want to just put pressure on you. You got to make a hit. And they'll talk you into making mistakes and all kinds of stuff. Life is like that with people. It's all the time going, hey, bada, hey, bada, over here, look at this, do this, that. You know, here's the money. Here's the safety. Here's the security. Listen, you can't fix that for them either. Do you hear about the monkey that got his hand caught in a vase? Got his hand caught in a vase, and they couldn't get his hand out, this little monkey. They tried soaping it, you know, and all that stuff, and it wouldn't come out. And the reason it wouldn't come out is because that little monkey had seen a penny in that vase. And he had reached in for the shiny penny, and he would not let go of that thing. So when they broke the vase to get it off his hand, they found the penny in his hand, and that was why he couldn't remove his. We all got our hands in and we won't let go of that. And it makes it so we can't hear. And that's what happens with this person that's distracted. Again, only God can deal with this. And then there's another person. This is the person that is prepared and is open. And God opens their hearts, and when they hear the gospel, they believe it and they take it seriously, and they become part of the family of God. And they're loving the scriptures, and they're loving God's people, and you see this growth in their life, and it's so wonderful and fantastic. That's the person that receives the seed of the Word of God in good soil. God had them prepared. It's really wonderful and wonderful to see. But I want you to see this. You can't control the soil. Only God can prepare it. So I don't want you to be discouraged. And I want you to see something. This is the parable of the sower. When you go to interpret a parable of Jesus, he's making one big point. Don't be taking parables all apart and trying to build doctrine, intricate doctrine, out of the stories of Jesus, because he's illustrating one big point. And you're getting all, they call that hermeneutics, trying to learn how to interpret the Bible. Don't be doing that, because you'll come up with all kinds of weird beliefs and ideas. Jesus calls this the parable of what? The sower. It's about him. And when we plant the seed, as God leads us in our life, did you notice the sower? It's not like now. I watch a girl and her husband on YouTube. It's called Laura Farms. And she's just the sweetest kid. Her and her husband, they're newlyweds and they're farmers. And I don't know anything about farming. And I've really enjoyed watching some of their videos because it shows incredible AI that they use to plant crops and to harvest and to do all that. These tractors all run off GPS, and you got to have somebody sitting in there, but they don't have to do anything. The GPS does everything for the planting, the harvesting, the turning of the soil, all of that. It absolutely blows me away. But back then, it was a guy with a seed bag who went out and just threw the seed, okay? You know where God sends the gospel? Everywhere. And it goes to the areas where it will be effective and to those areas that will not be effective. That's not his problem. He is sowing everywhere. And I love that. Now listen to me. There's a statement that Paul wrote to the Galatians. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. You and I are called. You and I have the truth. We're called to represent God in this world. Don't you become discouraged in that because of the response or the non-response of other people. That's not our job. Our job is just simply lovingly and openly to spread the truth of the gospel. I love this about Jesus. He's going to say something one day to those who have served him. He's going to say, well done, you good and smart servant. And he's not going to say that. He's not going to say, well done, my good and gifted servant. That's not it. He's not going to say, well done, my good and successful servant. He's going to say this, well done, my good and faithful servant. Let's worry about what he's called us to do and leave all the rest of that to him. You keep on. You don't give up. Don't become weary. Don't become discouraged. Understand, people are where they are and you have no power over that. Only God has power over that. Ultimately, it's God's work. We're just doing our part in God's work. So don't give up. Let's stand together to pray, shall we? Come on. Father, thank you for your word and for the truth of this incredible story. And we ask that you would apply it to each of our lives. Now, Father, I've got some folks here with me standing. They do this because it's a tradition, but they don't really accept the truth of it. They've been gospel hardened. Would you break up that ground and do in their lives whatever needs to be done so that they will hear? Father, for the ones that have got so much under the surface and are desperate for just an answer, for a fix, to somehow do away with their trouble. And then when trouble doesn't go away because of the stuff in our past, they get all discouraged and leave. Father, would you please make those dear ones desperate enough to look for the truth no matter what? Father, for the ones of us that are so distracted with everything else that we just can't pull the trigger on Jesus yet, would you please deal with us to make us realize how lost we are and that our ultimate safety and security is found in you and your great love you've shown us in Jesus. So we lay all this at your feet. Thank you for our time together. Bless every family, each individual, and we'll thank you for it in Jesus' name. All God's people said, Amen. Thank you for listening. If you would like to support Community Bible Church, we would appreciate your prayers and gifts. We can be reached at Community Bible Church, 1888 Crescent Lake Road, Waterford, Michigan, 48327, or at our website, www.cbcmi.com. We'd appreciate your gifts. We know that many can't give right now, so if you would, you'd be a great blessing to your brothers and sisters. God bless you. Have a great day.